just find them very refreshing in the summer, along with margaritas. And this has been my go-to as of lately when it's really hot out. Just need something hydrating. Alrighty. Cheers. Very good. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about the Montauk Project, which is the U.S. military's alleged mind control program. So, allegedly, this was conducted on the east end of Long Island during the Cold War. Project Montauk was a secret military experiment to develop psychological warfare with abducted children. Now, within this conspiracy theory, there's so many things, there's so many levels to it. There is time travel, teleportation, mind control, all of which are very integral to the story. While contact with aliens and the staging of the Apollo moon landings add color to this already insane story. Yet after all of that even being one of the many things that inspired Netflix's Stranger Things MK Ultra to, a lot of people just haven't really heard of this project specifically. So how has it gone overlooked? Well, a lot of people think that it's because the story originated in sources that are a little crazy, even by conspiracy theorist standards. Though even the project itself is fiction, the Central Intelligence Agency documented history of disturbing events. Experiments like the ones supposedly carried out at Montauk means that this theory will stay intriguing for the few who know of it, including you guys now. So, the narrative got its start in 1992 with a self-published book by Preston B. Nichols called The Montauk Project Experiments in Time. There were already rumors going around that the American military had been conducting experiments of psychological warfare for a while on the eastern end of Long Island as far back as the mid-1980s. So this book already added fuel to that fire. So both Camp Hero and the Montauk Air Force Station, the Army transferred a portion of Camp Hero to the Air Force after World War II. And these hubs were said to be for paranormal research. Nichols begins by saying he wrote the book after recovering memories of his time as a researcher of the project, and then goes on to give account of details of the interior of the facilities, its procedures, advanced technology, and numerous paranormal incidents that he supposedly had witnessed. After the book was published, others had started to come forward to say that they too had been privy to this research conducted at the Montauk Project, beginning the process of circular reinforcement that is the essential mechanism of this conspiracy theory. My dogs are going crazy. Now, in terms of his actual claims, the book goes all in. So there was experiments in mind control and telepathy, opening space-time portals into other dimensions, existing outside of space-time. This is already off to a great start, you guys. Let's have a drink. Nearly all of the key details are either disproving through obvious chronological inconsistencies or violations of the established laws of physics. On two retellings of the Philadelphia experiment story are ever the same, and people who actually served on Elridge in 1943 dispute the story entirely, but nonetheless, the conspiracy had been reborn and bouncing around for decades before it then helped give birth to this current conspiracy, the Montauk Project. So, in 1984, a shockingly otherwise forgettable B movie was made about the Philadelphia experiment called The Philadelphia Experiment, where a 57-year-old man named Al Bielek saw the movie in 1988. He claimed that he had experienced an overwhelming sense of deja vu. Using New Age therapies and practices, Bielek had said he was able to unlock a massive store of repressed memories about his extensive involvement in not only the Philadelphia experiment, but in something called the Montauk Project as well, and that the two were very much intertwined. So suggesting that his memory had been wiped using the CIA's MK-Ultra techniques to maintain the secrecy of these programs. Blake had claimed that his real name was Edward Cameron, and that he and his brother Duncan Cameron were actually crew members on the Elridge in 1943 when they were in their 20s. Blake had told this story to an audience at the Mutual UFO Network conference in 1990, saying that not only was this experiment real, but that he and his brother were on board the ship when it had happened. Oh wow. He said that none other than Nikola Tesla himself had engineered the equipment that caused the Elridge to break out of time, space, and that it had even opened up a wormhole to the future, which dropped the two brothers into the middle of the Montauk Camp Hero on August 12th, 1983. So this is a document that I'm going to try and read here for you that I might butcher because it's a little faded and half of the things are crossed out. It's a declassified document detailing Project MK Ultra's mind control experiments. So this says subject Project MK Ultra, sub-project 8. So sub-project 8 is being set up as a means to continue present work in the general field of LSD until the 11th of September 1954. This project will continue to a continuation of a study of similar to Stranger Things, where a similar device is used by the character 11 to open a portal to parallel dimensions. In the Montauk Project, Cameron and other researchers would use this chair to similarly open portals through space-time. Another experiment was described in Nicholas' book that is a paranormal concept of remote viewing that was actually researched by the CIA. So this first experiment was called the Seeing Eye. Creepy. With a lock of person's hair or other appropriate object in hand, Duncan could concentrate on the person and be able to see as if he was seeing through that person's eyes, hearing through their ears, and feeling as if they were in their body. He could actually see through other people anywhere on the planet. But more so than remote viewing or any other claims that were made, the one of abducting young children, some no older than 4, to use as subjects in the Montauk Project's various experiments is definitely shocking. He referred to these underage abductees as the Montauk Boys and said that they were snatched off the streets or even taken from their homes. According to Nicholas, these children were so psychologically broken down that most would forget all about their time at Camp Hero for the rest of their lives. Which is incredibly sad if true. And the stories of these boys became more intriguing when someone started coming forward and confirming them. At least one man has claimed to similarly recover his traumatic memories of this project. Stuart Swerdlow, a 52-year-old man living in Michigan, told The Sun in 2017 that he was one of the Montauk Boys monster loose from his subconscious. And the transmitter had actually portrayed a hairy monster. It was big, hairy, hungry, and nasty. But it didn't appear underground in the null point. It actually showed up somewhere around the base. It would eat anything it could find, and it smashed everything in sight. Several people saw it, but almost everyone had described it as a different type of beast. So they had then destroyed all of the equipment in order to remove this thing from existence and send it back to its original dimension, or something to that effect, which again is shockingly similar to Stranger Things. So it's funny, everybody thinks Stranger Things is MK Ultra, but there's a lot more to it, that's for sure. So according to Variety, the show creators Matt and Ross Duffer were so inspired by the Montauk Project that the original name for Stranger Things was actually Montauk. But they had changed it after the filmmakers filed a lawsuit against the brother for allegedly plagiarizing this short film, which was also called Montauk Project. But regardless, both projects were relied heavily on this conspiracy theory that had taken place. Now, question for you guys. Was there any truth to any of it? According to Nicholas, the basement levels of Camp Hero were flooded with cement once all the equipment was destroyed and the project was shut down. Well, I would hope so. If I had something like that happen, I'd be like, we're shutting this down, or we're making this so this never happens again. Although, that's scary to do. I wouldn't be a part of it, but either way, if I want, anyway, rambling. So everyone involved then had their memories suppressed using MK Ultra techniques. The decommissioned facilities at Camp Hero are still standing. However, attracting curious passerbys and local town folk to this day, regardless of what actually happened inside. The Sage Radar facility has become a notable landmark for boats sailing around the Fork of Long Island. So it was left standing when the Air Force had shut down the last of its air traffic control operations, giving it a very eerie presence. The military, for its part, had disputed that anything like the Montauk Project had taken place. But these sort of denials often do little to dissuade believers, because the U.S. government likewise did So why is it far-fetched that orphans or runaway boys would then be targeted? They seem like the exact sort of subjects that would be easy to take, and Montauk would be the ideal facility, as in the winter, it's a ghost town. So, at this point in time, it is heavily disputed. The government's militaries all say, the government says it's all just, a conspiracy theory, but there have been so many things that later come out to be true that they tried. And I wouldn't be surprised if at least some of this was true, that they had stolen, orphans and conducted experiments on them. Maybe monsters didn't appear out of thin air, but maybe they did try and see people, and maybe a lot of what the people had expressed as part of these experiments, seeing through people's eyes and stuff, was from the drugs they were on. But it is just such an interesting story.